Hello. My
Hey,
name. Hi, Sam. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. For those who don't know me, my name is Nicholas Polymonakos. I work behind the scenes here at NORWAC and help with social media and other various tasks. And if you don't know Samuel Reynolds, here he is.
Hi.
Hi, Sam.
Hey.
I think a lot of people do know who you are, actually. Um,
Okay. That always shocks me. I don't know. I mean, I still think of myself as up and coming.
yeah, yeah. But I think a lot of people know you. And you're doing three lectures, or two lectures and a keynote, I should say, at
That's
NORWAC.
correct.
The first one is Friday in the Paradise Room, 2:30 Pacific, steering round the bending of the lunar nodes.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit
Yeah.
about
Yeah,
that?
sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm excited about that one too. I'm excited about all three, right? But the what what's different than my previous lectures, I think my previous lectures, I mean, I've covered a lot of different things at NORWAC. But what I'm really examining is kind of looking at the quote unquote invisible points, the invisibility of things. So this particular lecture, I'm dealing with the nodes, which are not clearly visible. And I'm talking about even something more abstract, which is kind of the squares to the nodes. And so there's one way in which we're talking about the square, um, from the northern hemisphere, and then we're looking at it from the southern hemisphere related to the nodes, in terms of where the planets are. So those are important, and even something that has been like an issue as going as far back as Babylonian times in terms of understanding the bendings. And a lot of astrologers, whether they're traditional or not, don't know about them. So I'm looking forward to introducing people to how to use the bendings, what they are, and how to use them.
Yeah, and I will say from my studies and the bendings you'll hear about, but what I don't normally hear are the northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, or north south reference. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Which, I mean, it's the easiest way, I mean, to learn them. I think, a lot of times I've seen astrologers explain it like as you go counterclockwise, you'll have reached the north bending, and as you go clockwise, and it's just like, I think there's a far easier way to explain that.
yeah,
So,
no, just that you just explain like that's definitely a lot easier way.
right.
Yeah. Okay, so that's your first lecture. Then your second lecture is on Saturday, 2:30 Pacific in the Redondo Room.
Yeah.
Remember, people watching, these are virtual rooms that you'll be in. The
Yeah.
names
Don't
of the
show up
room.
at the hotel.
Yes, and but even though they are the hotel names that we use at when we're there at NORWAC, so we
Yes.
kept certain things. So this your second lecture on Saturday is called "Playing Your Parts: The Parts of Spirit and Fortune."
Yes. So I'm focusing on two more invisible points who are counterparts to each other, like the north and south node. So we talk about the part of fortune, we talk about the part of spirit, but I'm going to talk about what these things are, and then talk about how they can be used both in terms of looking at the natal chart and how they're used in relation to prediction,
Okay,
in
all
some
right,
ways in which people could start thinking about, you know, seeing them in a different light.
okay, and just before Sam and I did this recording, we were talking behind the scenes and we were looking at a chart. And I just want to let people know. Let's say if you don't know anything about you know the parts of spirit and fortune, I know a little bit about it, but the way Sam was talking about it, he put it in such a clear and concise way. So yeah, when I'm we're not explaining it fully now, but we're just giving you a little bit of hint and a mystery to the lecture, and
Yes,
I totally
something a
recommend
little
it.
enticing tidbit.
Yes, this is a preview promo video.
Right.
Okay, so on Sunday night, Sam next lecture, but it's really our closing keynote of the conference. 7 p.m. Pacific on day 3 of the conference, finding and using the light of astrology in dark times.
Yeah, and it will be dark for me. I mean, it'll be 10 p.m. for me at night. So, I'll
Yeah,
be like, okay, with the toothpicks, like, okay,
yeah.
no, I'll definitely nap during that day. Um, I'm looking forward to that because not just closing NORAC, which is a great honor. So I'm really appreciative to Laura for giving me that. But that particular talk is informed by just this moment, this this universal happening, this universal, what I'm calling initiation in the world, of the COVID-19 moment, as we might dub it. And we just had a hit piece from the New York Times again on, did astrology, prophesy or predict COVID-19? Well, actually we did. But the more important thing is, who are we as astrologers in this moment, and what can we offer to the world? And this is a continuation with a lot more focus on a continuation of my lecture from my keynote address last year, which was more about, is astrology ready for its close-up? This is more a close-up on astrology and how we're ready to give our gifts to the world. So it's not so much about like all the issues or what's wrong with astrology, as much as what's right and what we can set aright for others. So I think, yeah.
This has kind of been set up, and what I mean by that is, if we go back even 10 years to 15 years of what's happened with technology and the internet, right? And even the differences between 10, 15 years or being in the 80s or 90s, and how a person would encounter astrology or horoscope or get a reading is completely different now because of technology. It's so accessible. Anyone can get information and look something up or get a reading, or they're going to read an Instagram post and get a little tidbit about a transit, and so we're all integrated that way. And so astrology it's more open than it's ever been.
Yes.
And so here we are, and even before the virus, there's been challenging times, right? And so people are searching, right? They're looking for answers in many ways using different modalities and vessels, right? And astrology, on the numbers end, the financial end, is exploded, here. And so there's that part of it. But to go back to what you were saying is like, oh, here we are in these certain times, and we're being real and honest. This COVID thing, it's a dark thing. These are dark times, and not only as astrologers we're searching, but our clients are coming to us. New people are coming to us. Like, what's going to happen? What are we going to do? The questions, and we're dealing with mortality, right? So there, as astrologers, we have a responsibility. First off, to being the best that we can be, best astrologers that we can be. But out of any other time in our history, we're on stage.
Yeah. So. I mean, we've been on stage, and I think, like you said, but yeah, we're definitely on stage in terms of having our close-up moment.
Yeah, close-up moment. I like the way you put
it. We're in our close-up moment, and I think, and we've had several of them over the last. It seems like it comes back every 20 years or so.
Yeah.
But I think this one is different because we're also experiencing the Saturn return of the World Wide Web. Now that's very important because the World Wide Web is showing its proof of concept. I always say, define the Saturn return as a return on investment. So we're now seeing like the return on investment for the World Wide Web. Even now, the ability to have a conference, like if this had happened, 30 years ago, it would have been cataclysmic, in relation to conferences, right? There wouldn't have been like another kind of conference, for the things that we're trying to do. It would just been like canceled, and I don't know what we would have done.
Just even communicating about it.
We just had the phone pretty much. And I think now we're seeing something really different. And I think that's another kind of testament to astrology's power by being able to recognize the significance of this moment. And what we can also talk about, what that might promise. We're at heart, we're futurists.
Yes.
But people only think about us as, trying to predict the future rather than also envision the future.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of times that's half the battle, is recognizing where you are in the moment. The step after that is the acceptance of where you are. And I think once something like that happens, and we see it with ourselves, but we see it with our clients all the time. They come to us, but if there's an acceptance of the current situation, then no matter how challenging it is, or it's amazing, whatever, you know where to walk. You know which direction to walk, at least from there.
That's correct.
And so and I think a lot of times that's the pivotal point in any interest, like a story, is that moment. And so I'm really happy that we're ending the conference with your lecture. It's the closing keynote. There's a tradition with the closing keynote. There's been many astrologers over the years that have closed the keynotes at NORWAC. All the keynotes have their own story at NORWAC. The Saturday night keynote does, but the Sunday night one for sure. So
right, and even the name keynote, we want to end it on a keynote that
yeah.
That is upbeat, which is, if anyone's curious, and then we'll wrap it up. People may ask like, well, didn't you have a different title? And it was like, yes, it was. And it was a different talk. It was, can we tame the future? And I thought that was off key, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that Laura would select me as someone to close out the conference, but I did know some, and I talked to her like a month or so ago about, changing the topic, because I was like, I don't want to talk about taming the future this year, right? I think maybe next year, and I think that probably will be it, but I don't think this year is about dealing with taming it. It's not the right conversation. I think so. This strikes a better tone.
Yeah, and also too, it's mutable in a sense, and I mean immutable action as like to change and to recognize where we're recognizing, you're recognizing where we are, you're recognizing the type of lecture you're going to do, and then you're changing it. You're recognizing where we are and then shifting with it.
Exactly.
So yeah. Okay, all right, good.
There you go. Yeah. So I was just like kind of reading the room.
Yes,
the celestial room.
Yes. I do have to do this. So those of you watching who don't know about the conference, or you're interested in the conference, you could get all the information you need from the speakers bios. You can see the schedule on there. We have pre and post conference lectures, all on our website at norwac.net. This is important. If you were to buy the weekend pass, which is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, not only do you have the weekend pass, but once the conference is over, you have 2 weeks to watch all 50 plus lectures, which is a first. So after the conference is over, let's say you caught the lectures while you could live, but you can watch the rest of the lectures for 2 weeks after. This does not include the pre and post conference workshops. Those are separate. But I just want to let you know, for those of you interested, that you have plenty of time afterwards, and you can just disappear into astrology for basically 2 weeks. So
right.
All that information is on our website at norwac.net. Samuel, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
And I look forward to next week.
Yes. I know, I'm psyched, man. I'm psyched. I'm excited. We're here. So
right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.